I guess from my own perspective, adventure motorcycle riding for me is kind of like overlanding on motorcycles, so they go hand in hand. But I fell in love with motorcycles at the young age of 16, right before I got my license. But my parents were not a big fan of motorcycles, and so I promised I would not buy or ride a motorcycle until I was out of school and done with college. And I think my parents had the idea that the phase would drop. However, much to their chagrin, I turned 22, I graduated from college, and 2 days after my graduation, I got my endorsement and bought a motorcycle. Just gonna flip around. Hi, my name is Grace. I'm a motorcycle nomad and I currently live off my 2021 Honda CB500X. I got into adventure motorcycle riding about 2.5 years ago. I was really falling in love with solo camping and adventuring after I moved out to Bend, Oregon, and slowly started to realize that I would need to get into off-road riding to get out to those hard to reach spots, much like overlanders do. And so I bought my Honda CB500. I put some off-road tires on it, got a crash kit on it, and started really taking the bike out and exploring the mountains, forest roads, even some trails, and just absolutely fell in love with it. I also worked for a touring company that did adventure motorcycle touring for a couple of years, and it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And then last summer, I decided to give the nomad thing a try. I sold all of my possessions, hopped on the bike, and took off into the Western US. I had done some camping. I think that's generous, actually. My solo camp trips a lot of the time were out of a vehicle of sorts, and I think that is one of the things that does tend to make motorcycle camping a little more hardcore is you're constantly exposed to the elements no matter where you are. And sometimes if you are in an overlanding vehicle or whatever else, you can kind of escape that, and you really can't do that on a bike. But when I jumped into living off my motorcycle, I had not consistently camped at that level ever, really. And so it was very new. It was a major adjustment, but after about 2 weeks, you know, human beings are super adaptable. It took about 2 weeks and my body completely adjusted to it, and it felt more normal than being inside after that. That is something that you don't quite realize until you're living off the bike. And with overlanding, you do technically have like gear and things like that that you're making sure you haul. But with motorcycles, everything is on the bike, everything has to come off the bike. You have to build camp every night, and that includes carrying your food, carrying water, carrying extra fuel, gear, in my case also tech gear to work and film, as well as just clothes. And you know, it can be a lot. It's really exhausting some days, but then you also have those moments where, and overlanders have this too, you find the best camp spot you've ever been to, and it's so unreal and beautiful and amazing, and it makes all of the, the sometimes physical exhaustion and struggle worth it. Questions I get from women is how to be a solo female traveler, and I know I'm not the only one. I know there's a lot of other motorcyclists that get that, and overlanding women that do everything by themselves. And I think when I started out, I definitely had some nerves about it, but I think a lot of that is just, unfortunately, not something we need to be concerned with. Like most of the time when I'm out camping in the middle of nowhere, it's the safest I ever feel. It's honestly when I'm around a ton of human beings that I have those issues where I'm like, okay, maybe not a great neighborhood, or maybe I need to go somewhere else. But in general, the biggest piece of advice I could ever give solo female travelers that I use is if your gut says something off, or if you think there's a red flag, just get out of there and find a new spot. I've had that happen to me a couple of times, and it's just real easy. You just put everything back on the bike and you ride away, and you worry less. It's way easier that way. I have been pleasantly surprised by the generosity of other people while I've been on the road. Like everybody, I've had my experiences with not so wonderful people, but for the most part, I have been blown away by how awesome people are, how kind people are. I've had moments where I've run out of gas and I had a guy throw me in the back of his pickup and take me 2 miles down the road to the gas station, fill up, made sure my bike started, and then left. Didn't ask for anything, was just super excited to help out. I had a guy after my really terrible freezing experience. He ended up buying my dinner and my beer that night and didn't tell me. He said hi to me on the way out, asked where I was riding to, and then I found out later that he had bought my dinner and my beer. Really wonderful stuff. I've also met amazing people doing dispersed camping or in campsites, just that are neighbors. So I think there's an attitude sometimes that we should be afraid as solo female travelers, and I think that that's total BS, to be honest. I think it's the attitude you take. If you go into it with a good attitude and you consistently are trying to see the best in people, you will get the best of people. But if you go out and you're afraid and you're having a hard time, unfortunately, then I think those are those moments where you're going to really struggle. So it's just all about how you want to see things and your attitude. I think if you are starting to gain an interest in adventure motorcycle riding and touring with it, one of the best things you can do first is download the iOverlander app on your phone. It is the best way to find camp spots, in my opinion, particularly dispersed camping on public lands. And it's just a nice way to kind of map out where you want to go and not have to end up sleeping in a Walmart parking lot. As far as riding goes, the best thing you can do is Google your local community and see if there is any adventure riding. Now, there's ADV stuff in just about every state. The varying level of terrain is always very different, obviously, but the best thing you can do is just search your area. Find a couple of people, join a Facebook group. Always ride with a buddy, especially when you're starting out. It takes a lot before you can gain, I think, that comfort and safety level to travel alone. And even then, the best thing you can do is always text a friend, let people know where you are, share your location. I do that every time I'm on the road. My mom, my best friend, and my partner always know where I am. So as a result of that, if they don't hear from me by 8 p.m., they'll know I'm not where I'm supposed to be. But it's just watching out for yourself, making sure that you learn how to ride, use the skill set you have, and then having a good app to find awesome places to camp. I mean, because that's the name of the game, is you want to get out and you want to get in these amazing locations that no one else is going to be at. And the way you do that is by using a resource like iOverlander. So I would just share with anyone is just that whether you're on a motorcycle or in a truck or doing overlanding, what have you, I think one of the best things you can ever do for yourself is just get out and travel on your own. Whether that's even just hitting cities around the US or going off-road and exploring. Being on your own is something not a lot of us know how to do very well, and learning how to be present with yourself is one of the greatest lessons I've learned, and it's one of the greatest experiences I've ever had as a human being. And I think even if you do it for a week, for a month, for a year, for 10 years, whatever you want to do, it's something that's incredibly rewarding and allows a lot of personal growth, and you get a ton of stories out of it. So I just would highly recommend, if you ever get the chance to push yourself out of the comfort zone, to try something new, to travel, to see the world, to even just go camp for a weekend somewhere you've never been. It's just, it's really wonderful, and there's nothing like it, so. If you'd like to join the journey with me, you can follow me on Instagram and YouTube under The Graceful Renegade. You can also visit my website, thegracefulrenegade.com, for videography. And as always, live wild, ride free.